A graphic photo of a Salvadoran father and young daughter who drowned while attempting to cross the border between Mexico and the United States has sparked an international conversation about human dignity and the media's responsibility. The photo shows Oscar Alberto Martinez Ramirez and his 23-month-old daughter Valeria lying face down in the water after being washed up on the banks of the Rio Grande, and it illustrates the dire and desperate immigration situation. Ramirez and his wife Tanya made their way north from El Salvador to escape poverty. Prior to the crossing, the family secured a humanitarian visa in Mexico and spent 2 months in a migrant camp waiting to apply for asylum in the U.S. The photo was picked up by the Associated Press and distributed by a wide number of news organizations, including prominent ones that reach millions of readers. For example, the New York Times ran the photo on the front page. Often news organizations will refrain from printing images of those who have passed away, and that's the standard here at The Wire. Our editors ran the photo, making a judgment call in line with other media platforms, deciding that publishing the image was important. The Salvadorian photo is compelling and it has an inherent news value due to its accurate portrayal of reality at the border, but just because an image has news value and news organizations can publish the photo, should they? And that's a complicated question. Unlike other industries that may be regulated by the government or require a license to conduct the work, journalism is largely self-regulated. There are certain professional norms and standards that newsrooms may try and follow, like the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics, but at the end of the day, a news organization or a single journalist isn't required to abide by certain ethics. There isn't an agency with teeth that can punish organizations, so often the industry relies on the audience to punish such organizations through public outrage or loss of readership. This industry-wide lack of standardized ethics can lead to heated debates when something like this photo circulates. As Kelly McBride, ethics expert and vice president of Pointer, which is an industry-facing publication, argued, shocking photos that shine a light on the horrors of those caught in a geopolitical chaos have the power to galvanize the public. There are a handful of graphic photos published by news organizations that have a role in changing the course of history. These photos are iconic and often emblematic of these periods. Think of the picture of a starving Sudanese child during the widespread famine in 1993, the young naked girl burned by napalm during the Vietnam War, Emmett Till's open casket highlighting the violence of the segregated U.S. South, or Arian Kurdi, the 3-year-old Syrian refugee washed ashore while attempting to reach Greece. Photos like these are often horrifying, but the truth captured is powerful. But at the same time, the SBJ Code of Ethics calls on journalists to minimize harm to sources and the audience. A news organization's editors will often have to consider a variety of factors prior to publishing. The New York Times says it considers factors including the newsworthiness of the event, how crucial the photo is to telling the story, the likelihood of impact on loved ones, survivors, and the community affected, and whether or not our judgment would be the same regardless of who the victims were and where the events occurred. For the photo of Oscar and Valeria, the AP's VP of Standards argued that the picture was timely and powerful, and the two together were especially poignant, and very rarely do we get a photo that tells the story so well. While the Association of Hispanic Journalists called the photo exploitative and dehumanizing. And as the NHAJ pointed out, it could harm those close to the subject of the image as well as those in the Latino community. NAHJ wasn't the only one feeling this way. An op-ed in the Latin media outlet Remezcla argued that it shouldn't take a shocking and graphic photo for people to become sympathetic to those impacted by the migration crisis. Across social media, news consumers were accusing news organizations of publishing the shocking image for clicks, and journalists were discussing the lack of warning accompanying the photo. It's common practice that when a photo is graphic, it's blurred out and an audience member will consent to seeing the photo by clicking on the box. In this case, the AP tweeted it without any such precautions. On top of those calling the photo dehumanizing, there's a certain concern, McBride pointed out, that the audience could be desensitized to this type of imagery. Especially with so many news channels sharing the same content, it's hard to avoid it even if you wanted to. But at the same time, should people be allowed to ignore something like this? I'll leave you with a final thought. Former AP reporter Anthony Breskinen pointed out on Twitter that when a photographer Nick Ut took the iconic photo of the girl being burned by napalm, he got her to safety afterwards, choosing to help. He went on, "When we as the public are confronted with these photos, we have to face the horror and find a solution. Only then do we earn the right to look away."